Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech live on YouTube, the way it's meant to be. Still, in my opinion, the best place to do live streaming. Twitch had some better creator tools, but X was just a disaster. YouTube is best for, I think, reaching the most amount of people. And yeah, I thought I'd kick off today's live stream talking about this idea I've had for quite some time now, which is that that we're getting so close. We're probably going to know whether or not the iPhone 15 will have Thunderbolt on it in less than a month now. Invites for the event should probably go out on the 29th, I believe. This upcoming Tuesday is when we'll get some form of confirmation that Apple's having a keynote in September, which is not out of the ordinary. But I do think that just using Thunderbolt to transfer data occasionally seems a bit odd, in my opinion. It seems a little bit bizarre for them to just update the throughput of the port, but not really come up with any new features or any new use cases that are unlocked by that higher data transfer speed. So that's why I'm still convinced, not from any sources, not from any leaks or rumors or anything like that. This is mostly software features I'm thinking of, which usually do a better job at staying quiet, just like how very few people predicted or anticipated in like the dynamic island rumor. Like that was kind of came out of left field. We knew that there was going to be this new camera cutout on the iPhone, but how Apple implemented it via software was a huge surprise to a ton of people. So I think similarly, with Thunderbolt coming to the iPhone 15 Pros at least. Oh, I just realized, I prefer the name 15 Ultra instead of Pro Max, but now it's harder to refer to people. I can't just say the 15 Pros anymore. I guess they could call it 15 Ultra. That would be even more confusing. But yeah, I think that there needs to be some type of use case, some type of feature that gets more fully unlocked once you have Thunderbolt on the iPhone. And the one that keeps coming to mind to me is using your iPhone as a desktop powerhouse, kind of like a Mac Nano, something smaller than the Mac Mini. Just through that one Thunderbolt port, you could plug it into something like the studio display. Now you've got a 4K 60 FPS webcam. Hopefully the A17 chip could power at least a stage manager in the style of iPadOS, so you could have a keyboard and mouse, even wired, connected to the monitor if your monitor supports that. As long as the iPhone detects some kind of keyboard and mouse, it relies on that. Or of course it could do it via Bluetooth, because the iPhone should be able to handle that. And then you could have this little mobile setup that just means whatever you plug your iPhone into, you can just take advantage of on a bigger screen. It might be a little bit too much work, and maybe Apple will decide that that's too tacky, but I don't know. I think there has to be better examples or better features that could utilize Thunderbolt on the iPhone. I'd be curious if you guys have any suggestions or things that you're like, Thunderbolt on the iPhone would allow me to do this. And all I can really think of is you can move files on and off it faster. But how many people are honestly doing that? I feel like the vast majority of people with these phones are just doing AirDrop. And most people are doing factory resets or downloading backups from the cloud. They typically don't, access old copies or old backups of their old phones on their Mac and then load them onto the new phone. Like, I just feel like not that many people do it anymore. So do you guys think that the iPhone with Thunderbolt would basically just allow for that occasional data transfer to go faster? I think it's funny when people get upset and get mad whenever Apple's like, or whenever Apple's rumored to just have USB 2.0 speeds on the regular iPhone 15s with USB-C. I was like, what exactly were you planning on doing with your phone to take advantage of that higher speed? I mean, we have tons of people now spending $1,200, $1,300, some people $1,500, $1,600 on their iPhones today, and they have Lightning, and it's Lightning 2.0. And it doesn't honestly seem to come up very much. I mean, I hear people complain about Lightning as in it's not USB-C, so I have to carry around a different cable, and I can't charge it with the same cable I charge my iPad or Mac with. But I don't see that many people saying that, well, Lightning is just so dang slow. That makes it hard. Rarely that comes up, but people are still very upset that, oh no, USB-C is only 2.0. What's the point of changing it? I was like, I I don't think that was the point of changing it at all. I feel like most people wanted it to change just so they could have the same port on everything. Let's see. Hello, Burkhart. Hey, Josh, Alpha, Dylan. Randy's in the chat, too. Cool. More responsive CarPlay would certainly be nice. Personally, considering how limited CarPlay is, like, it's just a little... It's so much more dictated by the auto manufacturer than it is the iPhone. You know? Like, it's all pretty much up to how good is that display and that touchscreen that your car implements. I don't think it's really up to the iPhone. The resolution and frame rate of most in-vehicle displays is so low, I'm sure Lightning could handle the video output on that just fine. So I don't think Thunderbolt honestly would improve the CarPlay experience that much, unless we're talking about some kind of enhanced CarPlay experience that's taking over all these different displays. But I don't know. Maybe that's what they're going for. I'd appreciate getting my hour plus 4K at 60 off the phone faster. Yeah, I suppose more people are going to do that if they have the option to. Right now, AirDrop isn't really that much slower than using a Lightning cable, so everybody just uses AirDrop. But Randy said iPhone could then run iPadOS. A version of it, okay? There would still be a calculator app. This would be the only way to get the calculator app running in Stage Manager, is to plug your iPhone into the external monitor. The interesting thing I thought about, though, was how with the iPhone supporting Thunderbolt and hopefully allowing some form of Stage Manager when plugged into a monitor, again, that's all speculative. There's no leaks. There's no rumors suggesting that. I just think it would be a great idea to take advantage of the port on the phone. The big difference there is a lot of apps are different when you just download those third-party or first-party apps just for the iPhone. But if you wanted them to work on Stage Manager, you would need like the iPad equivalent version of that app so that, you know, you can resize the windows and you can fully take advantage of bigger screen you're connected to. So perhaps if Apple comes up with their own version of DeX and is able to plug into an external monitor, when you download an app, it might have to also download the iPad version, even though you're on an iPhone, which that kind of justifies upping the storage, right? Which is rumored to happen with the 15 Pros, both of them getting 256 gig by default and allegedly might go up to 2 terabytes. Maybe if you're downloading multiple copies of the same app or more optimized, you know, Apple DeX compatible versions of the app, that would make more sense to have a ton more storage. I guess you'll have a lot to work with. To take full advantage of Thunderbolt, the iPhone SSD needs to be fast enough, otherwise file transfers will be bottlenecked out of the gate. Yeah, but I mean, it's an iPhone at the end of the day. I mean, Apple uses single NANDs on MacBooks now with 256 gig and 512 gig. So I don't think they're too worried about SSD speeds, but it would be kind of funny if Thunderbolt was only on the higher storage configurations. I'm more curious than anything. There's not too much rumored to come out that I'm interested in buying directly, but what I'm interested in, like always, is how they market it. How do they sell us on this product? How do they sell us on these new features? Are they going to bring a lot of attention to the Ultra or the Pro or whatever? Are they going to bring a lot of attention to that Thunderbolt port and act like it unlocks all this stuff? Or is it just going to be something we read about in the tech specs and during the event they just happen to say, oh yeah, it's USB-C now, and we find out later which version of USB-C it is? I'm unsure. It could kind of go either way depending on if they have something prepared for Thunderbolt. If there is some cool new feature that Thunderbolt can do that the non-Pro iPhones can't, then maybe it makes more sense to bring it up. But I definitely don't think they're going to just acknowledge the slower speeds on the regular iPhone 15s, right? They're probably going to just announce that they're switching to Type-C, and that Type-C is the future, and it's a great connector, and we already have it on our Macs and iPhones, iPads and everything. But I don't think they're going to come out on stage and say, the regular iPhone 15 has USB 2.0 speeds. No, they'll just call it USB-C, and we might not even know for sure exactly how fast the port is until people start unboxing them and testing them, and I'm sure all the YouTubers on Tim Cook's nice list are going to have early access and get things early. It'll probably be weak. How are you, as Visualizer? I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you for your support. 21 months. That's a long time. Hey, Michael Lazito. I'm glad eUploads could join us as well. Better external display support currently can't do over 1080p. How many people are using external displays with their iPhones, though, is my question. Is that very common? Could be used for a future Vision Non-Pro, where the headset is basically just a screen, cameras, and sensors, and then all the processing is done on the phone. I thought about that, but there's an issue I have with it. I'm fairly confident, considering the micro OLED panels in the Vision Pro, the M1 and R1, the M2 and R1 chips inside, the motion tracking and everything, and the custom proprietary barrel plug that you connect to your Vision Pro to. They said it's a 2-hour battery life. Considering it has all of that silicon and those really bright, vibrant displays and everything, I don't know if they could get even a non-pro Vision headset, the AR goggles and everything. I don't know if they could get that down to about 18 or 20 watts of power consumption, which is kind of what a lot of Apple's current USB-C ports are capped at, like in terms of power output. Like when you plug in your iPhone to your MacBook, like via USB-C, your MacBook can charge it at about 18 watts maximum. Most of the USB-C, including the Thunderbolt ports that are on iPads, Macs, and everything, they typically max out at around 18, 20 watts. Now, even then, I don't think if your iPhone in the future was powering your headset, the battery life would be very long. In my opinion, it doesn't seem like something Apple would advertise, because it would kill your iPhone battery very, very fast. Basically, I think the headset is very, very power hungry, especially if you consider just like, have you guys ever done the whole Apple Keynote AR demos on your phone? When you open the event announcement. We'll probably all do this on Tuesday and look for Easter eggs. When the invite comes out, you press the invite, and then it has this little AR demo. And if your phone has LiDAR, you'll feel it. It heats up. Using multiple cameras and LiDAR all simultaneously uses a ton of energy. And even if you're just playing around with the AR demo for a couple minutes, your phone gets really, really hot, and that's nothing compared to what the Vision Pro has to do, considering there's way more cameras, there's way more hands tracking, and there's eye tracking, and you've got an M2 chip in an R1 chip and a LiDAR sensor instead of the iPhone, which has a much more efficient, smaller, lower power consumption chip. So I know a lot of people were thinking that, and I don't blame you, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, well, what if, we know the Vision Pro has USB-C on the other end of that barrel plug cable. What if you could plug that into the iPhone and the iPhone powers it? But the more I thought about it, I was like, I think that's actually way trickier than we realize. I think it's a lot more of a power hungry beast. If you look at how big the Magic battery, whatever it is, that Magic Pack or whatever, the power bank that you have to get with the Vision Pro in order to wear it away from a wall, it's a pretty substantially sized battery pack. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 15,000, maybe 20,000 milliamp hours. And they say the battery life is 2 hours. You can drain basically 4, maybe 5 iPhone batteries within 2 hours. If that's the case, then an iPhone may not be a great brain or powerhouse for a Vision headset, at least right now. Maybe it'll change for the non-pro headset. Perhaps they can take out the M2 chip or the M3 chip or whatever, because the iPhone's going to be doing the heavy lifting. Maybe they throttle down the number of cameras or the resolution of the cameras, or maybe they scale back on the micro OLED panels. But power consumption, I personally think, is going to be a huge problem with the Vision Pro and future generations of Vision OS devices. But if there's some way for the iPhone to help with that, and I do think if it had Thunderbolt, that'd be kind of interesting. Alpha says, I'll lose 10% battery from a few minutes of the AR demos. Yeah, that stitching together a little AR simulation is very, very power intensive, which is why I don't think we're going to see AR glasses from Apple anytime in the near future. How about the power of 2 USB-C ports? Oh, so you need 2 iPhones? Is that it? You'll have two 15 Pros. What's the reason for including Thunderbolt? Thunderbolt has PCIe DisplayPort tunneling. Why does iPhone need that? Well, J340, that's kind of the exact conversation we're having right now. I speculated on it on the beginning of the stream, saying if Apple starts to copy Samsung DeX, let your iPhone turn into a Mac, or if not a Mac, even a skimmed down version of iPadOS where you have Stage Manager on the big screen. You just plug in your iPhone to a monitor via Thunderbolt cable. And now, if it's a studio display, you get extra USB-C ports, so you could plug in even more accessories through that. The A17 chip is probably going to be a bit faster than the A16, which means, in my head, it's getting closer and closer, not quite matching it, but it's getting closer to the raw performance power of an M1 chip, which we know macOS can run on an M1 chip. Technically, we know macOS can run on an A12Z chip, which the A17 should easily surpass the A12Z chip in terms of performance. I personally am reaching the point where it's no longer a question of if it's possible, but will it be possible? That's up to Apple. I'm trying to fix I'm not trying to say when. I'm not trying to say it's a when thing. But I definitely think the A series of chips in the latest iPhones, like the A16 and Speculate, I'm coming up with new words every second now. I think it's definitely possible for you to run a version of macOS on an iPhone chip. Like, I believe that can happen. It's just a question of, should it happen? I guess maybe that's the better word. Will it happen? I don't know, because that's going to be up to Apple, but I do believe it is possible. Especially considering how slow and sluggish and crappy the old Intel processors were that are still running macOS. The A17 chip is, in my opinion, going to be fast enough to run it, and at least Stage Manager if they want that. Jackson says, hello from New Zealand. Wow, that's really far away. Do we really want our iPhones to run iPadOS? As long as it's not the only... I think iPadOS, for the record, has its strengths. I think for a basic, media consumption device, iPadOS is pretty great. In fact, I critique and have ridiculed iPadOS a lot. I sold my iPad, it's gone, I don't have my iPad anymore. But I will admit that for the basics, for your grandmas out there or for your kids out there that don't need a very complicated operating system, and I think a lot of you would probably agree with me, you would rather have iPadOS on a tablet than Android. Right? I mean, that's kind of the debate that everyone keeps coming back to whenever Samsung drops a new tablet. Everyone's like, well, it's not iPadOS. But then when we review iPads, we all complain about iPadOS. It's not great for, $800, $1,000, $2,000 hardware when you're charging as much as a MacBook, but you can't do the same as the MacBook. But to me, the iPhone's different because this is a pocketable device. This is something that people spend a lot of money on anyway for the camera, the battery life, the display. So I'm not expecting my iPhone to do everything a MacBook can do because the form factor is entirely different. iPad doesn't really have that same argument. It's the same size screen. It still has a keyboard. It still has a trackpad. You still carry it around like it's a MacBook. It just has a couple of extra things. But how's the battery of the new Mac OS? How's it running on your Mac? I have not put Sonoma on my MacBook, so I can't tell you that. I've only put Sonoma on my iMac Pro, which I have to say still lasts all day. It has all-day battery life when plugged in. I love the iMac Pro battery life. iPadOS is literally just iOS with special treatment. I would argue iPadOS actually has less things than iOS in many ways. For a while, iPadOS had picture-in-picture and iOS didn't, but then they changed that around, so now that's not an iPad exclusive. Pretty much the only thing the iPad has going for it over iOS is split screen, Apple Pencil features like note-taking and writing and drawing and stuff, and then is that it? Come on, there's got to be more. Oh, what was it? Stage Manager, I guess. The iPhone can't do Stage Manager, but as I'm kind of speculating in today's live stream, who knows? Maybe the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Ultra will get Stage Manager, and then that won't be an iPad advantage anymore. The iPad is a touchscreen, but yeah, the iPhone has that too. Um, but the iPhone gets the wallet app. The iPhone gets the calculator app. The iPhone gets optimized battery charging. The iPad doesn't get that. I don't know. It feels like third-party support is way better on iOS versus iPadOS. Yeah, iPads have center stage, I guess, but the iPhone kind of can do center stage. Like, I'm using my iPhone as continuity camera right now, and I could just click this one button here, and boom! Now my iPhone has center stage, right? I can move around. This is, well, I'm using the, hold up, I'm using the main, there we go, ultra wide. Whoa! Now I can really move around thanks to macOS Sonoma. It's kind of cool, right? Anyway, this camera angle looks way worse than this one. Much sharper, and then I'll turn off center stage. That's clean, isn't it? I love having the little iOS as my cameraman. Let's see. Center stage tracking on the rear cameras of the iPhone, not just when using it with FaceTime with Apple TV would be nice. That, well, yeah, it does that with Apple TV. You know that, right? Michael Pepper Tech. I thought, excuse me, I thought I showed that in my tvOS video. Either I did a bad job showing it or you did a bad job not watching it. Because when you use your iPhone as continuity camera with tvOS, center stage is definitely active. The MacBook Pros now have all the good features that were once only to the iPad Pro. Pretty much. The one exception I would say is cellular. And, of course, Apple Pencil. You can't really use your pencil with your Mac. Although that, who knows, maybe they'll add that soon. Am I getting the iPhone 15 to keep this year? Just review. I've tried to make this as clear as I can in all the live streams and podcasts and videos and everything, which is that I don't want to make a decision beforehand. I did that last year, and I thought that it was kind of unfair to Apple. It was unfair to the iPhone. Now, I did try out the 14 Pro Max, and I had already told everybody I didn't plan on keeping it. But once I tried it out, I quickly, within the first day of using it, realized I couldn't tell the difference between the 13 Pro Max and 14 Pro Max. People were asking, like Randy was asking me questions about it as I was using it, and I was like, oh, I was using the wrong phone. I thought he was asking me a question about the camera app, so I went to the camera app, and I was like, no, it doesn't work that way. And I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is the 13 Pro Max. So I was like, okay, if on day one I already can't tell the difference between the 13 and the 14, it's probably a sign I shouldn't keep it. But I did think that there were some cool features it had, like the dynamic island and the Pro RAW mode and everything. Not things that I really utilize or would pay extra for, but I don't think it's fair or fun for the channel for me to just decide whether or not I'm going to keep a product before it's even come out. As of right now, my guess is no. Right now, I'm happy with my iPhone 11. I'm trying to push the narrative on this channel that people should try to get by with less, that you don't need all the latest and greatest tech. So I see no reason to upgrade to the 15. It sounds amazing. I think it'll be the best phone ever. I will definitely review it. I will check it out and share my thoughts on it, but is there a reason for me to keep it? Is there some feature that I need that will help me make content better for you guys or something? I don't think so from what I know, but I fully acknowledge and admit that they could have something in store for the iPhones this year. They could have some software feature or some hardware feature that we haven't caught that is so cool, so helpful, that I haven't picked up on yet. And then once I try it out, I go, oh my God, I really need this. So I'm not going to try to commit to anything because plans change, variables change. So there's a chance. Maybe the iPhone 15 comes out, it has some really cool thing that I didn't realize I needed, and I buy it and I decide, you know what, this is really helpful. I could utilize this and I'm going to keep it. So either is a possibility. I'm done kind of trying to make a decision before I've even tried the product anymore. I don't think that's interesting or fair. I don't want to have a predetermined opinion on it before I try it. So yeah, at this point, I don't think I'll keep it, but who's to say, basically. Why Mike's in the chat too. 2 devices I will never use a beta on, my watch and my Mac. I wasn't too worried about the watch because it's not like my life can't move on or I can't get work done without my watch, but my Mac, my main MacBook, the MacBook Pro, of course, that does all the editing, That's one I won't put a beta on because I had a bad experience in the past. Actually, with this iMac Pro, where I put a beta on it and then I couldn't export my videos. It other than that mostly worked, but because my Mac was primarily used for editing and exporting videos, in my opinion, it might as well be bricked. It was basically a bricked Mac, and I couldn't make content on it. I thankfully at the time had a different iMac that was almost as good as the iMac Pro, but not quite as fast. But during the beta period, that second iMac just carried me. It was like a slower, cheaper iMac, but that was holding my whole job and my whole income source together. So after that, I was like, no more betas on the work computer. Betas on the phone, betas on the watch, on the tablet. That doesn't bug me too much. Let's see. I'm such a ridiculously heavy user. I'm at 91%, but that's where I was at the same time with my 12 Pro Max at about this point. I'm a really heavy user, too. I'm like 200 pounds or something. Not that that's bad. I'm one of the lucky few who still has 100% battery health on my 14 Pro Max. My wife's at 98, and hers is a day one phone. Mine is 4 to 5 months old. I really understand why Apple did not want to put in the battery health sensor. I think way too many people obsess over that. Marngel's asking about the controversy. I don't think people understand that battery health estimate is an estimate. It is not an exact science. And there's a lot of things that go into battery health. And the iPhone is doing its best guess to give you an accurate reading. But I have seen that battery health number go up after software updates, which for the record is not possible. The battery does not actually get better because of software. It's a physical degradation thing. What changed was the way the phone calculated it. So I know a ton of people are freaking out like, oh my God, my battery health is dipping below 90%. Honestly, it really comes down to just how you use it, the amount of heat the battery experiences, how often it's at 100, how often it's at 0. There's cycles in it, and typically healthy is considered 10% per year. And generally speaking, all batteries degrade the most within the first year. So even seeing 89% right now when the iPhone is basically turning a year old, that's not really that out of the ordinary. I guess maybe people were used to the battery degrading slower before, but it could have been the iOS guesstimator being inaccurate or being too optimistic, and maybe the 14 Pro guesstimator is a bit more pessimistic. Maybe Apple is making the battery health calculator more aggressive because it encourages people to go out and buy new iPhones. Oh no, 89% battery health, I need a new phone. I don't I think people are making it sound like a bigger deal than it is. If you were getting to like 80% in the first year, that I would be a little bit more like 8.0, not 8.9 or 8.8. That's honestly 89, 88% after a year is within a margin of, it's slightly worse than it's supposed to be, but it's not that far off. So I think people made it into a bigger thing. My XS Max has lost 10% plus of capacity, not even phased by it. Yeah, I feel like people over exaggerate the battery life things. It's like, were you really, when you first bought your iPhone, were you really ending the day at 0% every time? Or are you like most people and end the day probably at 20% or 30%? Or it doesn't make it through the day. Even so, whichever the result is, you live life with a charger somewhat nearby. If you got a desk, you have a charger there. If you got a nightstand, there's a charger there. If you spend a lot of time watching TV on the couch, you just put a charger there. I've seen that at pretty much everybody's household. You get those extra long lightning cables to plug in their phone from a distance from the outlet. Actually, it's a funny story because we just had in our living room, we're getting some home improvement done. We're getting HVAC, heat pump, air conditioner put in. We just finished it today, actually. It's really nice. But we found when we first got the house, there were all these outlets on one side of the wall that didn't work. That was pretty much the only issue with the house. And we were like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. And I'm not an electrician. I wasn't too brave to try to fix it myself. But while adding in this mini split, we realized that there was this one little wire on one outlet. Not all the outlets were broken in the living room. Just one Just one side wasn't working. But for some reason, this one side of the living room had like 4 outlets, and the other walls had just one, which we don't have a ton of stuff to plug in, so we were fine just living with 1 or 2 outlets in the room. But once we got this mini split installed and we had the wiring done correctly, it unlocked all these outlets on that other wall that the couch is against. So now we got like 4 extra power outlets, and we're like, oh, cool, now we can just charge the phone from right there. So even when you're just sitting on the couch watching TV, you can charge the phone. And I was like, is this really that complicated of a thing? I mean, people got chargers around. I think that's way cheaper than buying a whole new phone just so that the battery life can make it through the day. But if your battery doesn't, if it really concerns you that much that your battery health is degraded by 10%, you're probably either A, addicted to your phone and on it too much, or 2, not just getting a little bit more creative with chargers, or 3, you need a different phone with a different battery life. I understand that a lot of people out there are spending lots of time away from chargers. They're out at work or out in the field and they can't charge because they don't have a desk or something. And those people, I would say, if your current iPhone battery is dying at the end of the day at 1% or 0%, to the point that little amount of degradation is concerning to you, there's other problems. I don't think the problem is the battery health. Personally, that's pretty typical. I wonder if wireless charging might have something to do with it. In my experience, it doesn't. Wireless charging does create heat, but it is mostly on the outside of the phone. It doesn't travel inside the battery all that much. Heat does affect the battery life, the battery health and everything, but most of that is more affected by fast charging, because when you fast charge the battery, the battery itself is charging up quicker and the heat is coming internally from the phone. Wireless, you can feel it if you like put if you put a like I'm doing it right now. I can't show you because it's right off camera. Hopefully this doesn't knock my iPhone over. Here it is. I just had my AirPods Pro sitting on this MagSafe puck here. Even if you put it on properly, but if you put the AirPods a little bit off-centered on your MagSafe puck and then you take the AirPods off, you'll feel it. Like, inductive charging just inherently creates some heat loss. That's why it's always going to be less efficient than just pins and a wired connection. Now, it doesn't really matter all that much because it's such an insignificant amount of power, but people are like, oh, it's worse for the environment. It's like, it's kind of like saying campfires contribute to greenhouse emissions. It's like, yeah, they do, but that's not really the bulk of it. That's not really the big problem. It's more like cars and, coal power plants and steel production and that kind of thing. But anyway, you can feel heat on this even though it's charging the AirPods. So that heat is coming from the outside of the devices, not so much it's coming from the charge coil itself, actually. The charger, not the charge receiver. I exclusively charged my XS Max for a year and experienced almost zero battery degradation. It was at 100% until about 3 days before the new iPhone came out. And then it went down to 97, I think. But, by the way, if you've had your iPhone for 4 to 5 months and it still says 100%, that doesn't mean it's actually at 100%. It's not that noticeable. Like, it's the iOS guesstimator is not super accurate. It's doing its best guess, but like the first couple times you use the battery, it's already degraded to a certain extent. It's just very slight, and iOS isn't picking up on it. 5 watt. Oh, Alpha says 5 watt wireless charging has been the best way to preserve the battery. Would that be better than? It's more convenient, but would that be better than 5 watt wire charging? I would think that would be the best way. But again, there's more to it than that. It also comes down to what battery percentages the phone is sticking around at. If it's at 100% all the time, that's worse. Or if it's below 20% a lot of the time, that's worse. So if you somehow have a way to make sure that your iPhone is always between 80 and 20, you'll probably get better battery health. But sometimes the heat is not up to you. Like, you could be out in the sun or something, you're swimming, it's on a hot summer day, and you left your iPhone on the side of the pool and it's sitting in the sun. Yeah, that'll heat it up. That'll make it really, really hot, and that will degrade the battery quicker. So in my opinion, it's not something people should worry that much about. My iPhone 5S is at 78% battery health and it's 7 years old. Wow. W user 22. That's I'm surprised the 5S was able to check battery health. Would you use next-gen CarPlay if Tesla enabled it? Sure, I'd give it a try. I don't know if it would be any better than what I have right now. I really like the just native Tesla operating system, but what's the harm in trying? 5-watt wireless charging would take a very long time to charge up your phone, especially newer ones. Yeah, it's meant for overnight charging, for sure. I am no longer active on Discord, no. Discord locked me out of my account for one, but also by the time they locked me out, I was kind of done with it. There's too much drama, basically. Too many rules I have to abide by, like admins and mods and people constantly being mad at me for who's banned and who's not banned and who's a mod and who's not a mod. I just got sick of it. I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, this is not why I made a Discord. I made a Discord just because I wanted to talk to people, kind of like what I'm doing right now. This is more fun for me. Just like you guys share your perspective and your opinions, and I read them and I bounce some of mine off you guys and ask you questions and we go back and forth. That's all I really wanted to do with Discord, but too much of it turned into role following, and I kept getting DMs from people constantly saying, you need to do this, or Drew, you need to try this, or Drew, stop doing that. And too many voices, and like I can't play government, like who has authority, who has power, who's here, who's not here, who should be here, who shouldn't be here. It got too messy for me. So I was already struggling to stay on top of just the platforms I'm already on, which is YouTube and now X, which is monetized. Discord wasn't really monetized. I didn't really make any money from Discord. So I couldn't even really spend a ton of time in Discord and just say, well, this is for my job, this is for work. Can't really do that either. I couldn't make that argument. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to take a break. So I took a break for a little while. And then once I tried to come back onto Discord for something else, I was just group call for the podcast, basically. I came back and Discord was like, oh, you have 2-factor authentication turned on. You got to enter these backup codes. And I was like, but I'm not signed in on anything else. It's like, so I was trying to let them know, like, hey, this is me. I'm the real guy trying to get into my own account, but you're requiring me to get backup codes on a device that doesn't have the app anymore. It was like on an old phone that I had reset or whatever. I had switched phones so many times. So it was just a mess, and I was like, I don't honestly have the time, and honestly, I don't really care to get my account back at this point. So there's other admins in there. I just, kind of let it be the fan server. The community can hang out there as much as they want. I'm not going to shut it down or anything. Mike from the podcast is, I think, still in there, or is still an admin, I believe. So he's running it. I think they're doing fine. But I didn't have the time for it anymore. I haven't really enjoyed Discord, especially during controversial topics. Yeah, it was something weird about the platform. I don't know what it is, but I've discovered it's not just my server. It was not. I'm not trying to blame anybody in particular. It's something inherently about the format of the social media. I don't know what it is, because I had the same thing happen in a different server, which I won't mention, because I don't want to cause drama or anything. But I went into other servers, and there was the same kind of power trip thing, where people just inherently get more pushy, people get more toxic, and they get more classist and elitist, and it just, something encourages people to be meaner towards each other, and I'm not sure what it is. I really can't quite articulate it, but a friend of mine had the same experience and said, oh, I had this, all this fell down in my server, and all this fell down in my server. And it was not just one person, for the record. There was several people that were all telling me, yeah, I had this problem with this guy in my server, and it all came back to Discord. And I was like, I really don't know what it is, but something about that format just brings out the worst in people in a way that I have not experienced with YouTube. I have not experienced it on X. I really don't know. I wish I did. Something about the group chat thing of it, maybe it's something about the roles. I can't understand it. But what I realized was, nearing the end of the time I spent on Discord, was I started just DMing people more, because I found that was easier, just to talk to people directly when they had questions, or when I had questions for them. And I just liked having those one-on-one conversations. Once you started getting group chats together, there was always these dynamics where it's like, oh, I don't want so-and-so to see how I didn't answer that question, and you get worried about how people perceive you and stuff. It's just weird. Yeah, I think the dynamic of people virtually changes a lot in group chat. There's some kind of group think, and then team players and hierarchy, maybe. That's what Joe's saying. I think I agree with that. I really don't know what it is, but I was enjoying the DMs. I was just DMing people a lot, and I was having fun with that. And I was like, hey, when people have a question, they can just come to me and ask it, and I'll respond. And they don't have to worry about what other people think of the question. They don't have to worry about ridicule from someone else. And I realized, well, I can do that on X, formerly Twitter. And I was doing that. I was like, I should probably just do more DMs on X now, because that's really all I'm using Discord for at this point. And I have to go on X anyway for news, and I'm active there. And now it's actually a form of income for me. I hate the rebrand. I preferred the name Twitter. I don't like that Elon changed it. Most of the changes they've made to Twitter have been horrible. But the one change that kind of redeems it all is the fact that they are reimbursing content creators for putting stuff out, which is kind of amazing. You just write some tweets and write some ideas down, or make some jokes, make some memes, put them out there, and then money shows up if you get enough traction. That's kind of mind-blowing, but I've been paid officially, for the record. It has been wired into my account, so now I'm like, okay, this is an income stream. Now I'm a bit more motivated to stay here. Discord didn't really have anything equivalent to that except subscriptions, but I feel bad enough how many of you guys have become channel members and are supporting me. I'm trying my best to come up with perks and features or things that unlock when you support me directly, like Alpha, Marngel, or Visualizer, all you guys, the green names, and James, Sanders, Cedarloff, you know who you are, the channel members. You're so generous, and because I know most people discovered me on YouTube, I figured most of the perks, like the members-only streams, should be on YouTube and stuff. No. The X money is not big enough to live off of. At least not my account. I got like $50 from it for my first payout. Which is not a lot, but I don't know what time period it's for. Again, the paying part is cool, but there's still so many other problems with the site. Like, they don't tell you how often you're going to get paid. They still haven't clarified that, because some people got paid in July, and then a month went by and they got paid again, and then 2 weeks went by and they got paid again. But they don't tell them what the payout period is for. Is it for the past 3 months, or is it for the past week, or is it for the past 2 weeks? We still don't know. How good is the monetization? Well, I don't think it's that linear. It's not that clear. It's like, well, the amount of impressions you have to get compared to a standard YouTube video is obviously going to be way higher. I got something 15, 20 million impressions. I don't know if they were counting all of the previous 3 months for my payout, or just the last 2 weeks for my payout. They don't clarify that. They don't make it very obvious. But the perk I will give, even if the payouts on X is low, is that it's incredibly passive. Like, I can write tweets all day. I can make jokes on Twitter so easily compared to making a YouTube video. YouTube video is so much harder and more time consuming, and that's someone who doesn't work very hard on YouTube videos. Like, it takes me, maybe an hour and a half once I have an idea to get the camera set up, the lights, film it, edit it, upload it. Like, it's a pretty simple system for me, but it still requires pretty active work, whereas coming up with posts on X or whatever, I can do that on the toilet, I did it a lot, actually, while I was on my vacation visiting family. I was spending a lot of time with my nieces and nephews, and I was busy, so because I was there spending time with them, I didn't have a lot of active free time to just say, okay, I'm gonna go make a YouTube video now. I gotta go film, I gotta go edit, which requires active attention. But instead, it's just like, okay, whenever I get a spare minute, I just send a tweet, and that's it. And then money shows up from that. Like, that's amazing. Even if it's way less than YouTube, it's still incredible that there's some form of monetization from that. So that's why I took it seriously, because I'm not requiring it doesn't require a donation, which is what Discord and Patreon are doing. You know, they're like, well, you can make money off of it as long as someone is putting money into it, whereas X is monetizing ad revenue, just like YouTube. So you guys don't have to pay me $1, and money can still show up just because you're tuning in. It's kind of like YouTube Premium, I guess. But I remember them asking if I wanted to get paid too, but I don't tweet a lot. That's such a stupid pop-up. I saw that on other accounts too. It's like accounts that are nowhere near the monetization requirements, right? Like you're basically millions of miles away from being able to monetize your account because you don't get enough impressions or you don't have enough followers or whatever. And they were sending ads or pop-ups to those people saying you could be getting paid right now if you signed up for Twitter Blue. And I was like, that's so messed up. That's really scammy. You know, that's so wrong to tell people that, because not everybody knows that. You know, I'm aware that, you know, I follow this stuff really closely, so I understand what the requirements are and the thresholds and all the things you have to do. And other people out there just using the Twitter app or the X app, they don't know these thresholds. They don't get those requirements. They just see some of their favorite accounts posting, hey, I got paid. And then they see that pop-up that says, hey, you could get paid too, which is just deceptive. I could understand the pop-up if you were already reaching the threshold, like you already hit all the requirements and you just needed to sign up for X Premium in order to get payouts. But that's not what they were doing. They were literally sending it to just random nobody accounts that barely had enough followers. That's just icky. That's just gross. How do you get monetized on X? Right now you need 5 million impressions within the last 90 days. You need 500 followers, and then yes, you need to subscribe to Twitter Blue, which is now called X Premium, which sounds incredibly wrong. Nobody knows or cares that I exist. I know you exist, but I get it. You know, you got to hit the threshold. Have I found YouTube's recommendations to be a little off? I found YouTube recommending very small channels more and more. Like, I'll get a lot of YouTube recommendations of a video that has, like, no views that was uploaded 3 days ago from an account with 2 subscribers. That seems to be happening more. I think it's YouTube probably copying TikTok. They're trying to let people who just joined and just uploaded a video get more discovery. So they turn up the recommendation algorithm for new users so that you get more views early on, and you get this hope that, oh, okay, there's a chance that I can get traction or get viewers from this. And then over time, as you get bigger, they turn down how often your videos get recommended. They did the same thing for my EV channel. When I first launched Tailosive EV, they were recommending it like crazy. It was growing really fast. It was bringing in a ton of money, and it was a lot more than the tech channel was. And I was like, okay, dang. And it picked up all this traction because it was so new. But then once it had been around for a while, it slowly, the recommendations were a lot slower for it, even though the content itself didn't really change. I've been making the same kind of videos ever since the beginning. I think it's the TikTok strategy of giving people hope that they can find viewers. Which, hey, I mean, it feels a little weird, but I don't think there's inherently something wrong with it, because if you are putting out content early on that people are captivated or interested in, YouTube recommends it, and then people follow you, and now you've got an audience, now you've got a brand, and then when you've established that, they don't recommend you as much, okay, well, you still got viewers that can hopefully share your content around, and now you've got an audience to kind of sustain yourself, maybe even get your channel monetized, and now you've got an income stream. So for YouTube to kind of help the people early on who don't have much of an advantage, to help them early versus the people that have been around for a while, they don't need much help because they're already big and established. So what's the next Tailosive brand? Well, I'm trying to kill off as many Tailosive brands as possible, but if you mean rebrand next year, we've already been working on the graphics and artwork for all the profile pictures and the intros and the outros. The EV one is done. I finished, while I was on my trip, actually, I finished the intro for the EV channel, which I don't think a couple of you may have seen already, but I don't think most people have seen it. And the tech one I'm not done with yet, but it's because for next year's tech intro, I want to do something with the iPhone 15, basically. So I can't do that yet because it's not out. So I'll wait until I get the iPhone 15, and then we'll do some cool effects and come up with a cool intro. And then it'll probably stick around for 2 to 3 years after that. They give location-based recommendations, even with having location tracking off for YouTube. Interesting. That is weird. I subscribe to all your channels, but I haven't seen Tailosive EV in a while. Maybe YouTube just stopped pushing it to me. Well, most people don't look in the subscriptions feed. That's the thing. That's where you're going to find all of the content that you're subscribed to. Most people just go based on what's in the home feed. So they're going to keep serving you things that you've expressed interest in the past. Max Gaming says, 14 Pro Max after 8 months of daily use, 6 hours a day, still at 100% battery health. Again, it's a guessometer. That does not mean your battery health is actually 100%. I can guarantee you it's not. That's not how that works. Which iPhone 15 model are you testing? I don't know. I think I heard there was a rumor that the Pros might come later because of this new manufacturing method they're using. So if that happens, I'll probably get a 15 Plus in September, and then I'll get a 15 Ultra in October. But if they all come out at the same time, I'll probably just get a Pro Max because that kind of covers the basics. It's like, okay, I got one iPhone. It's the best of any phone. Now I can test out all the features. Do I need to get a 15 Plus as well, even though it's basically like the same phone but just missing some things? I think I can tell you what I think of those phones without having to buy them or use them. What's your choice these days for a prepaid provider? Ooh, say that 10 times fast. I've been thinking of moving to Metro, maybe Cricket Wireless. Boost Mobile has been good for me, but worried about their future. I don't review a ton of them. I've been on Mint Mobile for almost 4 years now, and very little complaints. Still works good. It'd be insane if Apple actually did 13 mini with USB-C. I know! Oh my god. Basically, whatever my next iPhone is, I just want it to be like the cheapest iPhone with USB-C possible, because I'm so sick of having to pack lightning cables whenever we go on big trips. I don't mind it so much. I don't mind lightning on my iPhone right now when I'm at home because there's chargers around and everything. But when you're packing and having to take the chargers out, put them back away, and then you're at the airport, you got to take the chargers out, put them back away all the time. Which one do I need? Oh, this one needs USB-C. Oh, this one needs MagSafe. Oh, this one needs lightning. Drives me nuts, which is why I have this 2 meter, sorry, not 6 meter, like I said in the video, USB-C cable from VoltMe, not a sponsor, just happen to have them. And I charge my MacBook with this, and if I get an iPhone with USB-C in the future, I'll charge it with this. And I also don't want to buy another pair of AirPods until they switch to Type-C, because after all the traveling I did this year, I'm like, I just want one cable, maybe two. But if the two cables are the same exact port, then it doesn't matter. I know I can just reach in a bag and pull out the cable, and it'll be the right one. Would I get an SE3 with USB-C? Not new, maybe used, but I'm not in a rush at the end of the day. I'm content because where USB-C on the phone matters the most for me is going to be when I'm traveling, and I don't plan on doing any huge trips within the foreseeable future, although I'm actually in the midst of planning one next month already. It's not a huge one, though. I'm not having to fly anywhere, so it shouldn't be that hard. But next time I do like a long distance trip, where I'm away for months, which probably will happen again. Whenever that happens, I will be a lot more interested. I'll look at the used market or refurbished and see what USB-C iPhones are going for. And also I'd be a lot more interested in one that has the physical SIM tray, especially if I'm going overseas anyway. There's a very real chance I will buy a international iPhone 15 with a physical SIM and then bring it back to America. But yeah, that's not. There's no need for me to get it on launch date. Basically, 13 mini with USB-C would be the best vlogging camera. Yeah, it would. It would be awesome. It would just be a great phone overall. Lightning is a play. Next year when we upgrade, I'm getting a new bedroom remote and new AirPods so we don't have to deal with Lightning and C. I know. I'm so ready to just like wipe it off the face of the earth. I don't want it anymore. Will I get the 15 Pro in gray, or gray? Good question. Gray, I think. No, I'll probably when I'm doing the pre-order live stream, I will run a poll and I will let you guys vote on which one I should get, and you will all probably vote for the one that is the new color that everybody else is getting, like you normally do, which will probably be Titan Gray. Alpha has been a supporter for 25 months. Jeez, thank you. I'd love to see a 10S Max with USB-C. I miss that design so much. Yeah, I wish the next SE would be modeled off the 10R or the 11. Have it a rounded chassis with USB-C would be nice, but sounds like the SE4 is just going to be an iPhone 14 with a single camera and USB-C, which I'm not that excited about, but the only time I fly is when I fly off the handles. Oh, beautiful. I lean to Metro by T-Mobile, so if I do think it's Metro, I mean, isn't it this all the same stuff anyway? They're all owned by T-Mobile at the end of the day. Dedrick says, planning on getting an iPhone Ultra, but my iPhone 11 is at 72%. Should I replace the battery? Don't know how much I will use the 11 after getting the Ultra. Well, yeah, you just want 2 iPhones? What for? I've tried so many times to be like, oh yeah, I'll have two phones. I'll use this phone for this stuff and this phone for other stuff. And it never works. I always just end up using one phone like 90% of the time. Ugh. I wouldn't replace the battery. It's so close to the 15. Yeah, I don't know why you would replace it if you're not planning on keeping it. I guess maybe you want to sell it or something? Do I still use my MagSafe Duo? I do, yes. It still charges my phone every night, even though my phone doesn't have MagSafe. It still works. It's still a wireless charger. That's how Apple will get us to upgrade this year. A new feature, physicals. Not in the US, at least. I doubt that. Let's see. Well, the 10S, of course, it aged. It has missing features versus the 11. Well, the 11 Pro is newer, of course. You know, I think the iPhone 14 aged a lot better than the iPhone 6. You know, I feel like the iPhone 6 doesn't have as many features. Does that make sense? I work on my content. I'm surprised that I have any followers. Love them. My video need help. No joke. I think what you have to say matters a lot more than the quality of the angles or the camera or whatever. Anyway, I have some questions that were asked by our Tailosive Tech Pro members here, so I think now would be a good time to answer them. Let's see. YJ Choi says, when do you think Apple oh my god, I'm gonna die. When do I think Apple event invites will go out? It'd be funny if they already did by the time you answer this. Nope. Good thing we answered. Also, how many Apple events do you think there are going to be left in 2023, and what month do you think they'll happen? So, if it goes as it normally does, at least, whoops, wrong camera. Normally, at least how it worked last year, was the iPhone event is on the second Tuesday of September, and the invites went out 2 weeks before the event. And if the rumored September 12th, which is what I predicted as well, it's the second Tuesday of September, as per usual. 2 weeks before that would be August 29th, which is this upcoming Tuesday. So Apple could change things. It's not a guarantee. They've done things weirdly in the past, like during COVID. They would send out invites a week before the event or 6 days even before the event. They did once, where it was less than a week. But last year, as they were, I think, closer to returning to normal, because, you know, it was a virtual event, but they did still invite people to show up and check out the hardware. I have a feeling that last year's event and this year's event will be pretty close, similarly to the announcement. So my guess is this Tuesday morning, probably around 8 a.m. is when the invites will go out. I will, of course, have a video up talking about it. Why was it on a Wednesday last year? I think they changed it to Wednesday sometimes. Usually it's the second Tuesday or the second Wednesday, but it's not always it's not always consistent, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But this is my ballpark guesstimation. August 29th is when the events will go out. And then, yes, I think there's been some rumors about an M3 chip coming out. I think they'll probably put one in the iMac. The iMac is ready. They'll probably put maybe they'll put an M2 chip in the iPad Air. I don't know if that warrants having a whole event, though. We've seen Apple release new silicon without a keynote. You know, they'll just do a site refresh. Honestly, because they already did a big drop for the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros and the 15-inch MacBook Air. I don't know if there will be another event. Maybe they'll have an event to detail more of the specs of Vision Pro. Maybe that could be it. Maybe there's an event in October, but wouldn't be shocked if it's all just site refresh stuff, because I don't think Vision Pro is ready yet. I don't think they want to do a whole keynote on the specs yet. But anyway, we got more questions. Nate Tech, who is now Natography, rebranding just like Twitter. Am I selling my Mac to continue to simplify your ecosystem? You can find a similar size monitor to replace it, to still have 2 screens for live stream and editing. At this point, no. I sold my iPad because I don't use it at all. And I didn't take it with me on trips because I didn't see the point, and I had basically gone 4 to 5 months without doing anything with the iPad. So that's why I sold it, because I would rather have $420 than a tablet that sits around doing nothing. But my Macs, both of them, honestly, I still use. I'm using the iMac Pro to live stream with right now. It's easier to read the chat on this screen. It's easier to mount my phone up here for continuity camera. And OBS is a lot bigger, easier to manage on the big screen. So for live streaming, I feel like the iMac Pro is still pretty good. I use my MacBook Pro for all my video editing. And its performance of the M1 Max chip has enabled me to live stream my video editing process, which the iMac Pro cannot do. And of course, when I take these huge trips, I definitely need to have a Mac that can edit my videos, and I need it to be portable and I can take with me. So I won't be selling any Macs in the near future. If I did sell one, it would be the iMac Pro, but I've seen what they're going for, and there's not a lot of demand for them because they're older. Even though the performance and the I/O is pretty great on the iMac Pro, most people are like, I don't want to spend that much money on a computer with an Intel chip. I don't blame them. I wouldn't buy one either. So I don't think there's that much market interest in my iMac Pro. And the other difference between the iPad and the iMac is that my iMac has 2 terabytes of storage on it. So it's, even if I don't use it for video editing, it's still a great local storage system. There's a ton of old pictures and videos I have on here. Whereas my iPad was only 64 gigs. There wasn't that much storage on it. It wasn't really useful in any way, shape, or form. The iMac could be. I'm debating whether or not I should give it to my grandma, because she has this old PC and she keeps running into issues with it and asking for me to help her with it. And I keep saying, I'm sorry, I'll try to help, but I don't have as much experience with Windows. And I keep telling her we can get you a Mac. I want to set you up with a Mac. And anytime I mention setting her up with a Mac, she's like, no, I don't want to learn a whole new thing. I just want to use what I have. She's one of those people that doesn't like change, doesn't want a new computer. But I keep telling her, well, if you keep having these viruses, this is why I'm telling you should stop using a PC, Grandma. But we've been going back and forth on that for years. But in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, if at some point her PC dies, I feel like we should. She has an iPhone and she uses an iPad, so I'm like, Grandma, you're so close. Just you'd have the whole ecosystem. It would all work together. You could do the FaceTime on there, and the screen would be bigger. You wouldn't have all these viruses, but. She doesn't want people to go out of their way to get some fancy new machine on her desk. I've tried, but no, she doesn't want to do it. But I'm tempted to just wait till she's gone and just set up the iMac Pro in her house. Okay, here, just use this. But I don't know. It's kind of weird. My granny has used both, and she found Mac way easier to use. I know. I feel like it's not just grannies. I feel like everybody finds the Mac easier to use, but whatever. I think you made the right call consolidating your tech. Thank you, Consumer Computer. I do too. It was abundantly clear when I went 3 months without using my iPad because I didn't pack it with me. When the iMac Pro stops getting OS updates, how will you test macOS betas in the future? I don't know. You should be asking, how am I going to test iPad OS betas in the future without an iPad? I don't know. I don't have to test every single beta. I mean, it's cool when you can, but it's not like a must test type thing. The videos do okay when I test out betas. They get some views, but it's not like my whole channel is reliant on software support. I know there's some channels that just do that. Zolotech, I think, is one of them. There's other YouTube channels that mainly just focus on software. Here's all the changes in this iOS version. Here's all the changes in this iOS version. I've thought about doing that, but the truth is I'm not that interested in it because I don't watch that content. And I think YouTube audiences pick up on that really quickly. When you are doing something that you're not that interested in, like, it's cool when you make videos on things that you're interested in because then you can elaborate on them and your brain treats the topic differently because you're genuinely interested in the topic. So you will explore hypotheticals and think of roadblocks or potential. But if you're not interested in something, you're not going to explore the topic as well because your brain's not thinking the same. You're just working on it as this is my job, I have to do this, and not, ooh, that could work. Ooh, I should try that. So I decided against doing videos where I just break down, here's 20 changes in iOS 17.4 to beta 3. I just couldn't do it. All the changes, most of the changes are so minor, so slight, they don't affect me. I don't even notice them. So I do like big picture once in a while. Here's my impressions on iOS 17 or macOS Sonoma, but little incremental, like I don't make that much off of beta software, so it wasn't worth keeping. In the same way, I wouldn't necessarily put betas on my Mac just to do a video on it because that one video probably wouldn't do that well. Let's see. iPadOS betas aren't really worth talking about given they just hand-me-downs from iOS. That's why I didn't talk about it. That's fair. That's a good point. Well, the truth is I have 8 terabytes on my MacBook Pro. I don't like the idea of this, but if I really wanted to, I could probably partition it and put a beta on one half and not the other, but then that kind of eats into my local storage, and I've ran into annoyances and problems when doing partitioning in the past, so I don't really want to mess it up like that, but I could if I really needed to. I still use my Apple TV every day. It still has network connectivity issues. I don't know what it is. My phone is further from the router than my TV, and my phone still works with the Wi-Fi just fine. But the Apple TV keeps disconnecting from the Wi-Fi. My friend Mike had the exact same problem. Both me and him got our Apple TVs on this Prime sale where they were both like $100. And I wonder if the Amazon Apple TVs they got were cheaper because they had some kind of like crappy Wi-Fi chip in them. They were probably manufactured during the pandemic and they were changing chip suppliers or something because I don't know, no matter what I do, it loves to disconnect from the internet. It's not enough for the whole TV to be worthless, but it's noticeable. It gets that little pop-up every once in a while. No network detected, and I'm like, okay, I'm using my phone right now on the Wi-Fi and it's working. Apple TV is closer to the router. I don't get it, but yes, I still use my Apple TV every day. Let's see. Is the latest beta cause heavy battery drain for you? I've been noticing horrendous battery life since beta 7 came out. Well, I'm on an iPhone 11 with like 80-something% battery health, so I guess I always have a charger nearby. I don't really notice. I would say I have gone a few hours. Well, that's not true because when I'm driving, I keep my phone on the charger, so it's charging. I haven't noticed. Nothing out of the ordinary for me, unfortunately. But that's not to say that your experience is not valid, that's for sure. The camera icon has 3 pixels that are different between beta 1 and beta 2. Knowing that info changed my life forever. I know. That's why I can't watch those videos, is that's what most of the changes were. I used to watch them more, I feel like, when Everything Apple Pro did them. He was like one of the first big like Apple-focused channels that did leaks and stuff. And I feel like that's what it was back when I would watch it. Here's all the changes in beta 3, beta 4, and it was always those like tiny, barely noticeable things. And I'm like, okay, who cares? I can't get interested in that. Let's see. I'm currently using Nothing Phone 1, but the gaming is crap on Android, so that's why I'm buying 15 Plus. Really? Apple's got the better gaming hardware. That's fascinating. Oh, yeah, we got more questions from the Pro members, by the way. Everything Apple Pro is not dead. I think he comes around every time a new iPhone drops. It's just he's more of a case manufacturer now than a YouTuber. But here, let's switch over. Nate also asked if a new iPad allows to be officially 2-in-1, would I get a new iPad to replace your MacBook? This would keep your ecosystem smaller by technically not increasing. I know that's a bit harder because it is for your channel. Yeah, I think I've said this before, and I will say it once again, I think for 2 years now. I would buy an iPad if it could replace my Mac. If it could do everything my Mac could do, and more, by being an iPad, but also having access to full Final Cut, having the external camera support like Continuity Camera does right now, having OBS, having the file management I want, having the I/O I want, having the great speakers, the great microphone I want. I would be on board in the future because my MacBook Pro is still pretty great as is. So it would be kind of a waste to just buy an iPad to replace it. Even if the perfect dream iPad came out tomorrow, I'd be like, that's cool, but it's not necessary. So the next time I'm in the market, like for 3 years from now, what did I agree to? I agreed with my wife because she was like, I don't want you spending like crazy amounts of money on a new computer every single year. That's that's unnecessary and unreasonable. And I was like, yes, I agree with you. I kept my iMac Pro from 2017 all the way to 2021, and it did great. So I bought the MacBook Pro for a lot of money in 2021, and I think I agreed to her that I wouldn't buy another Mac for at least 5 years, which means I can't even really think about getting a Mac replacement until 2026. And by then, if there's bigger iPads with better ports, better I/O, better performance, that can beat out the M1 Max chip and better software, sure, that's pretty much the only instance in which I will consider getting an iPad again. But the idea of just getting an iPad to be some middle ground in between my phone and my Mac, I'm kind of done with that. I've tried it for years. I had an iPad since March of 2014, and after all these years, I've just kind of reached the conclusion that there's just no space in my ecosystem for something in between. My iPhone is just too practical and too useful, and my Mac is too utility focused. It's so practical. It's so efficient at video editing. There's not really room in my ecosystem. I can't justify having another device in between. It's just, I would rather just put that money towards a nicer phone or a nicer Mac. But if the iPad gets to the point where, okay, this iPad is so capable and so good, I don't need a Mac anymore, yeah, then I'll consider it. I have a new-ish Apple TV, but not the newest Apple TV. Mine has the A12 chip, and my Siri remote still has Lightning, unfortunately. But do I think Apple sued him for the leaks? No, I know he just makes more money from phone cases now, so he didn't need to do YouTube anymore. YouTube can be a lot of work. It can be kind of tiring and exhausting. I understand why someone wouldn't want to do it anymore. Do I think that the M1 MacBook Air has shown its age yet? Not really, from what I've seen. Most of the people I know that still have them are very happy with them, so it's not that old. My studio will probably serve me for like 10 years. Yeah, I mean, my dad has an iMac from 1998 that still works, Like, Macs tend to last a while. So I think my iMac Pro still works from 2017. There was better hardware that came around that I needed because I needed a laptop for all of my travels. So I use that for most of my video editing now, but that doesn't mean the iMac Pro just stopped working. When you were traveling overseas earlier this year, did you have an international SIM or use roaming, or did you stay in airplane mode the whole time? Well, most of the places we went to had Wi-Fi, so I didn't get an international SIM. Mint Mobile, I don't think, supports any kind of roaming. Mint is just US only. So I just didn't have cellular. But the thing is, wherever we travel, we typically have family or friends. So we're not like usually traveling all by ourselves with no one around. So if I needed internet, we could hotspot off of our friend's phone, or we just use the Wi-Fi at our destination. And then for the last month of that trip, we were in Hawaii, which was the U.S., so our Mint Mobile worked there just fine. And then I was in Idaho for several weeks, and internet was great there too. So when I was in the Philippines and Thailand, I just relied on Wi-Fi, and I got by fine. I rarely needed internet when we were away from the house that often. Y-Man says, I'm looking to get a Mac desktop, but I won't be doing heavy use. Just email, PowerPoints, Word, running a nonprofit. Nothing too crazy like editing. He's asking me to recommend. I guess that's the last question. Recommend? I guess I would say get a certified refurbished M1 Mac Mini. I don't know if you need something on the... Yeah, you said desktop, so... Get a M1 Mac Mini, find a highly reviewed cheap monitor on Amazon, and highly reviewed keyboard and mouse, and you could probably get a real nice Mac setup that will last you for many years. That's under $700 probably. What way do you think Apple monitors will take? Would like a premium screen like Studio Display, but would really like mini LED 120 hertz. Getting the panel to 120 hertz is not the hard part. Getting it through a Thunderbolt connection is the hard part. Because Apple, for whatever reason I don't understand, loves their ultra high resolutions. They couldn't just do 4K, they had to go to 5K, and then they had to go to 6K. But once you try to make 6K 120 hertz, now Thunderbolt 4 can't do it that well. So even if they came up with one, there probably isn't a Mac that could plug into it via Thunderbolt. Maybe you could plug into it via HDMI, but that kind of ruins Apple's, clean one port, one cable solution that they usually go for. They like their one cable to be able to power data and video and everything. It's for my dad, and he needs a high quality and at least 27 inches. Yeah, you can get a great 27-inch monitor on Amazon for pretty cheap. For what you're using it for, email and PowerPoints, I don't think you need some fancy iMac or anything. Would I still buy a new Pro Display if they refresh it? I doubt it, because it's probably going to cost more than what I'm willing to pay. Randy says, should I buy an iPhone 14 right now or wait for next? Obviously, yes. Buying a 1 terabyte iPhone 14 right now could be the best financial decision of your life. And you can take that as... No, don't do it. Everything I've ever said is a joke. When does the bandage come off? All the time. Every day. I have to keep putting it back on. Sorry. I know it's distracting. If you hate looking at it, just imagine what it's like hanging off your face all the time. It's so annoying. Have I seen the LG Stand By Me portable briefcase TV that was talked about on the Waveform? I think I saw a headline for it, but no, I didn't watch it. Everyone, please click the dislike button. Idaho is the state I forget exists the most. For me, that's Wyoming. I'm convinced Wyoming doesn't exist. Would I already answered that. Sorry. There's one more question from a pro member, I think. Would I ever jailbreak my iPhone? I didn't even jailbreak my iPhone back when it was easy to do so. Everybody now tells me that jailbreaking is so hard it's not even worth doing. A ton of people were like, oh yeah, well, it used to make sense to jailbreak, but now it's so complicated and so difficult to get it to work. You have to have an older version of iOS, and the things that jailbreak allows for is so insignificant and so meaningless compared to what normal iOS enables now. So yeah, I probably am comfortable saying I will never jailbreak. I had friends that did it in high school, and they would show me a handful of things that looked kind of cool, but nothing that ever convinced me I should go through all the steps I would have to go through on my phone. I didn't really have surgery. I just had a mole here that they removed, and it's healing, so it honestly doesn't really even look that bad. I could probably take the Band-Aid off, but while it's healing, I'm supposed to keep it covered. But it's in such an awkward place, especially when I talk. It's not so bad if I just watch a movie or something and I keep my face still, but when I'm doing stuff like this, it's really annoying because my mouth movement makes the Band-Aid come off. It's not worth it at all, but it's still fun. How could it be not worth it and fun? I don't understand. I jailbroke my 10S on iOS 12, and while I liked it, it took a lot of tinkering and introduced a lot more headaches. See, that's what I gathered as well. There was all this stuff of like, okay, now you got to do this, or now you can't let the phone do this, and now you can't let it die. And I was like, I don't want to have to worry about all this other stuff. Have I seen Oppenheimer? Did I like it? Yeah, it was well done. I thought a lot of the nudity was unnecessary. It's just like, I know that they're trying to display here's what happened in his life, but I went to the movies with my dad. I don't want to see that stuff in a crowded movie theater, you know? Like, that's just weird. It makes everyone uncomfortable. It probably made the actors uncomfortable. It made the audience uncomfortable. But other than that, it was great. Yes, it was not very action-packed. I was confused why they wanted everybody to see it in IMAX. It was mostly just a bunch of guys talking. It was interesting. I liked the moral debates going on and all of the history that was behind it and how quickly everything unfolded. It was a fascinating story, but because of all the nudity, I was like, I can't really go back and watch this. I don't want to see that. Yes, I also saw Mission Impossible. It was okay. Have you seen any Mission Impossible movie in the past, 10 years? It was like that. It was just that again. It was like, I don't know. None of the Mission Impossibles have topped Ghost Protocol for me. Ghost Protocol was the only Mission Impossible that was kind of funny and was kind of self-aware, which, because the Mission Impossible franchise is always so ridiculous and silly, it's a lot more fun when they don't take it as seriously. My problem with the last 5 or 6 Mission Impossible movies, I don't even know what they're at now. The last 3 or 4 have just taken themselves too seriously. They always try to get dark. Yeah, Barbie was amazing. I love the Barbie movie. I'd go back and watch that again. I don't want to see Oppenheimer again. I don't want to see Mission Impossible again. I feel like you watch one Mission Impossible movie, you've seen all of them. Barbie was wonderful. I love Barbie. I saw that with my wife, and I laughed. And I love the music. I love the set design. There's so much practical effects. Surprising amount of practical effects in Barbie. I watched Barbie first, by the way. So I did Barbenheimer, not Oppenarby. Martin Gel says, I'll probably jailbreak my 13 mini in the somewhat distant future when it stops getting software support. Jailbreak can allow to use certain important apps up to date. Okay. Yeah. It's a genuine reason to use one, I guess. You couldn't pay me to watch Barbie. I don't believe you, Simply Sora. I bet you would, for the right price. For the right price. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it was wonderful. The regular iPhone 15 is enough. Well said. Well said. Yeah. I mean, I guess for a lot of... Potentially that might be the cheapest USB-C iPhone. If they don't do that whole, switch the old iPhones to Type-C thing. Randy says, after iOS 14, iOS was perfect. No need to jailbreak, definitely now. I didn't even feel the need back on iOS 7 and 8. You know, I had friends in high school that I saw come up with these tweets. Look, I can put folders within folders, and I can close all my applications. And I remember the stupid jailbreaks I saw kids do at school where all the apps would rotate and spin on the home screen. And I was just like, that's so dumb. How often do I go to the movies? Almost never. I pretty much only go when I'm visiting someone to spend time. I guess I went a lot this summer because we were with family members, and when you're visiting family members that you don't live nearby, it's always oh, we gotta go out, we gotta go do something. So that was what people came up with. It's oh, let's go see Elemental, let's go see The Flash, let's go see Mission Impossible, let's go see Barbie, let's go see Oppenheimer. You know, it was just something to do, something to go out and spend time doing with spend time with a family member or a friend. But if I'm just at home, normally, no, I don't go to the movies if I'm not on a trip somewhere. Thank you, Penn, for the super chat. They just said, "Hey," that was very nice of you. I don't feel like being lectured about the patriarchy. That was a very small portion of the movie. I thought the patriarchy was the most hilarious part. Ken is just seeing the real world and all these guys waving their fingers and all the big trucks and the horses and Bill Clinton, and he's just I was laughing hysterically. I thought it was great. But I mean it's a Barbie movie. I don't think people should overthink it. It's Barbie. Don't look for intense, deep ideological discussion. It's Barbie. It's meant to, let girls know that it's hard and that society has unrealistic expectations, both of the guys and the gals. I thought they balanced it pretty well, personally. They kind of played devil's advocate against and for Barbie, and Mattel was mocking themselves, and I don't know. It's just way more clever and way more creative than it should have been. it's a Barbie movie and someone put a ton of thought into it. It's kind of amazing. Anyway, The Flash is horrible. It wasn't a good movie, but I was entertained watching it because it was such a train wreck of events. It was just so bizarre how many things they were throwing in the movie to try to make it interesting. I was entertained, but I would not say it was a good movie. It's definitely, of course, it's a satire. Of course, yeah, it's meant to be a satire. But people are just like, well, what do you mean by that? What are you trying to say? I'm like, it's a Barbie movie, dude. Just laugh, just have a good time. If that kind of stuff bothers you and you can't enjoy it, then okay, don't go and watch Barbie movies, I guess. Oh my god. Oh, it played the Barbie song after I said the word Barbie. Hey, I love that song, for the record. It's catchy as heck. Let's be honest. I was a little disappointed by how little the original Barbie song was in the movie, because it's a really catchy song. And they did some Nicki Minaj cover of it in the end credits, but it wasn't as good as the original song. Anyway, I would love Wally West show up as a Flash. Oh my god. Mary says, "You're always my number one favorite. I love your honest opinion." Oh wow, thank you, Mary. This is a very kind and unnecessary super chat. Jeez. You should tell Ben Shapiro about that. Oh boy. I don't follow politics or Ben Shapiro, but I can imagine that. Could just, well, what are they trying to say? The Barbie trying to say that the patriarchy, that's absolute nonsense. The Barbie movie is very offensive. Very offensive. And it's funny, like, okay, I'm not trying to get political here, but... oh no. Here I go. Okay, this is Drew dipping his toes into the political sphere. Okay, let me preface by saying I love capitalism. You know, I've made a career off of capitalism, off of Apple and off of Tesla, and I love big companies making good products at scale, and I support the idea that rich people should exist, and well, yes. You know, I don't think capitalism is a bad thing. I think there's flaws and problems with it, but it's probably the best system we've come up with as a species. However, it is hilarious to me how often you hear kind of typically right-wing conservative people, they tend to complain about whatever woke means. I still don't understand what woke is, but they complain about wokeism, and they complain about everybody being a snowflake, and everybody's so easily offended these days. But then Barbie comes out and makes fun of the patriarchy, and in my opinion, a completely harmless and hilarious way. It was funny. It was like a gag. And then the right-wing conservative people get offended by a Barbie movie after complaining about how like easily offended people are these days. And I was like, there's some irony in that. I don't know. I don't associate with any political party. I think all politics are a joke. The only way to win is not to play. I don't trust anybody that thinks they should be president. If anybody looks at all of the problems in the political sphere and all the problems our government and our country is facing and stands up and says, I know what to do, I can fix that, I don't trust that guy. Like, that's weird. Anybody who wants that type of power probably shouldn't have that type of power. I think humans at any kind of massive scale are doomed to be corrupt and have problems. So the more localized we can be, the more personal we can be, and more direct and loving of each other, the better. Which is why I don't try to have a big channel. I actively do things to try to shrink my audience, because I would rather be on a first name basis with people. I don't want to be some big 10 million subscriber channel or whatever. Drew is far centered. I just hate the idea of dumbing down someone's political ideology to a spectrum. Like, it's such a complicated, there's so many subjects involved. There's so, dumbing it down to just, it's either liberal or conservative, or even a quadrant isn't complex enough to encompass how people feel about so many different opinions and laws and governments. But The truth is, I don't think humanity was meant to solve problems that big. I think we're better off just kind of trying to take care of each other and focus on our own little personal villages, you know. I will now take this clip out of context to call you a left-wing shill. For the record, I think I have ticked off people from all ends of the political spectrum. That's my goal. Space is a spectrum. Yeah. I don't think a quadrant is complex enough to gauge someone's political ideology. But anyway, let's talk about betas. I don't have a second device to test the public beta. Should I hold off? On what? If it's a device you use for work, probably hold off. But if it's just something you use for entertainment, I do vote. That's not what I said, Brandon. I do vote, but I don't ever feel very confident in who I'm voting for. I tend to feel like I'm voting against someone, not for someone. I always vote. It's important to vote. I encourage people to vote, but does it have an effect? Doesn't feel like it. When you anger people on both sides, that's when you know when you're doing it right. Yeah, I feel like most people, I think, are like that. I think the vast majority of people don't really agree with a political party. I don't think the country is, or the world is as divided as we think we are. But I do think politicians and the media and political parties basically are trying to convince you that more of the world doesn't think the way you do, or more of the world is evil, or most of the world is against you. They try to motivate some kind of urgency. They try to convince you, oh, this is the worst time, and everything's about to fall apart unless you vote for me, and then I will fix all the world's problems. And they don't know what they're doing. No one knows. It's all a joke. Am I planning on upgrading my watch this year? I don't think so. I think the watches will pretty much be exactly the same as last year, just with slightly better chip. That's it. The Series 9 is probably going to look exactly like the Series 7, and the Ultra is probably just going to come in a new, darker shade of color. And the SE2, I don't think they'll do anything with the SE. This is what are you guys trying to say? Most first world countries have like 8 to 10 plus main political parties. Yeah, but then the winner results in 80% of people not getting who they wanted. So I'm not saying the 2-party system is good, but the 10-party system isn't great either. Oh well. I think all political systems are flawed, basically, because they're all made by people, and people are flawed. I think humans do really good with small numbers. Just, your local community and your family. Just don't focus so much on what's going on in the world, because honestly, we have very little effect on what goes on with our leaders, other countries. They're all going to make mistakes. They're all going to make stupid choices, whether you voted for them or not. You can complain. You can argue with people, try to change their mind. You rarely do. You rarely argue someone out of their ideological viewpoints. But just trying to be helpful, trying to be attentive to the people in your local community that need you, or your family. Just trying to be there for them and present for them, listen to them, and just try to be on good terms with people that you interact with on a daily basis. Don't worry too much about the guy arguing with you in the comments or on X. You're probably never going to meet him. Whatever you say to him, you probably won't change his mind. He's wasting time and you're wasting time, and you're both getting angry. So Randy says, we're not divided on iPadOS, so life is good. Well said, yes. Tech is so much cooler than politics. Yes, I very much agree. The tech lets us focus on the individual, I feel like. That's what kind of brings me back to tech a lot of the time, is like earlier people asking for, what should I get for this purpose? I need a Mac desktop for basic stuff like PowerPoint and web browsing, and okay, what fits my needs best? So I learn a little bit about you. Maybe I learn your name, I learn about your use case, what you need a computer for, and then I can make a recommendation based on my knowledge of here's what good computers are available now, here's what's worth the money, here's what's not worth the money. You probably don't need an M2 Mac Mini, because are you going to notice an advantage over the M1? Probably not. So we all get to just talk about what makes sense for us. We get to be a little bit more specific, a little bit more individualistic, and we don't have to worry about the giant political problems of the world, which will never be solved. There will always be problems. I honestly think, there's always problems and there's always issues going on in the world, but generally speaking, if you look over the vast amount of time humanity has existed, we're basically in the safest, most comfortable time period. Even though there's a lot of problems in the world, I'm not denying that, and there's a ton of people suffering and going through hardships, but for a lot of people, just this fact that you're able to watch this right now means that you're probably much better off than someone a couple 100 years ago, or even a couple decades ago. Life is, for a lot of us, is pretty dang good without having to. This is coming from someone that's had, like skin stuff ripped off, and I just got calls. I got to go back and get more things removed, and I've got problems too. But I think it's all a perspective. I know some people may not agree with me, but I tend to think for the vast majority of people, happiness is a choice. It's not. If you wait for circumstances to go your way, you'll never be happy. But if you choose to see the good and choose to see the nice things in life, you'll find joy in it. Life is fun, yeah. Life is funny. I agree. Legalize comedy. What is my opinion on X? I think there's been about 99 horrible decisions and one good one. I think that would be my summary of Elon's takeover of X. But to be fair, I didn't think they were doing a good job before Elon either. Elon's doing different things. I don't think they're necessarily better. I think you should be able to block people. I think you should be able to get verified without having to pay for it. I don't think tweets should be over 240 characters. I don't think Twitter needed to be rebranded, for one. That's a huge complaint I have. It was totally fine with the name, the logo, the way it was. It didn't need to be changed. We can have joy without being happy. That's interesting. That gives me a lot to think about. But yeah, overall, the one good decision, which is a really, really good decision in my opinion, is compensating content creators. I think that's what YouTube basically does better than anybody, and that's a good thing to copy, which is what X is doing. They're copying YouTube. M2 base model Mac Mini is cheaper than M1. What? What are you talking about? How so? Are you okay with paying a subscription to be monetized? Yeah, I've mentioned before, as long as it covers the membership, to me it's worth it. I would do that with YouTube, to be honest. If they could honestly roll that out tomorrow and I wouldn't really have a choice because of my livelihood and because of how I make money to support my life and how much I bring in from YouTube income. If YouTube tomorrow said, turns out if you want to be in the partner program, you got to pay us $100 a month, I would have to do it. I'd have to. It's not like I would save money by not doing it and canceling my YouTube partner program. So, yeah, I would definitely pay it if they asked me to. I'm grateful they don't. But yeah, I paid the $8 to get the verified check mark, and then they paid me $50 2 weeks after I signed up. So I was like, okay, this pays for itself. It's worth it. Mary says, how's Louise doing? Give her a big hug for me. She's doing great. Thanks for asking. She was in the Tailosive EV video today, if you want to see her most recent thoughts on our car. My hypothesis on Elon's decisions at Twitter is do whatever generates press / gets people talking about us. That's a pretty good hypothesis, actually. Seems pretty effective. It gets people talking. I don't know if it's necessarily the good, all press is good press type mentality, because I know a lot of people that are, surprisingly, I know a lot of people that are in favor of Elon taking over Twitter and X, and they like that he wants to do free speech or whatever, but they don't use it, which I find interesting. Like, I know people that are like, oh, I think that's great that he took it over. I think that's great that they want to have a more free speech platform, but then they don't use it themselves. And then I know a lot of people that complain about it and hate it and will never use it and will never touch it. So I'm like, okay, well, does talking about it necessarily get more people on it? I don't know. Um, it just depends, I guess. But um, I feel like the truth is it's quite obvious he spent way too much on it and he's trying to get his money back. So that's why they're cutting so many corners. That's why there's still a bunch of broken things like websites that haven't been fixed or pop-ups that are supposed to show two-factor authentication that don't. There's a lot of bugs basically with the app and a lot of things that he should be doing that they're not doing, that they're not fixing. There's still bot problems. They still haven't added support to different devices and different sizes. There's all these issues that they're ignoring. I think it's because they're on basically a skeleton staff. They don't have as many people working there as they did before. And because they're trying to turn the company profitable as quick as possible, they're just focusing on how do we get as many people to sign up for Blue or Premium as possible, because that's a big revenue source for them. And how do you stop people from leaving? Well, you start paying them, which I think is overall a good idea. Making a better platform doesn't generate money. I was pro Elon buying Twitter before he bought it. Yeah, you can't just make it better and expect money to show up. You got to focus first on the advertisers and the content creators, because that's what brings the people. But I do think that's smart of all the things they've done. Whoa! Demetha, what the heck? Why are you super chatting so much? Hi, Drew and fellas, what you talking about? Well, I guess we were discussing X currently, but I'm open to whatever you guys ask about. Have you seen that when you disable watch history, your YouTube homepage becomes empty? Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. That's kind of how they dictate your home feed. What are they supposed to base it off of if they don't analyze your watch history? How do you identify a bot on Twitter? I have no idea. Is it a girl? It's probably a bot. No, I know there's some actual girls, but the vast majority of, there's a lot of bots that are trying to get you to click certain links, and they have fake profile pictures showing fake people that are usually dressed a little inappropriately. It's very obvious. It's one of those things that you can't necessarily, or anything crypto related. I haven't seen those in a while, thankfully. Anytime someone talks about cryptocurrency, it's probably a scam, or some kind of crypto wallet. You know, if you ever get a tweet about that, it's probably a scam. But I still see a lot of the phishing links everywhere, and usually the Twitter filter does a good job hiding it, but it still comes up sometimes. If there are more bot girls than real girls on Twitter. Yeah, pretty much. It feels like it. If you turn off your faucet, water stops flowing out of it. What? There's no way. I didn't know that. Oh, you're talking Best Buy. Consumer compute, that's not... You're comparing unfairly. Hold on. Let me show you here. Apple certified refurbished. This is what I'm referring to. I'm suggesting you buy straight from Apple, okay? Do they have... They don't have the M1. I guess they're sold out, huh? Yeah, I don't see it anymore. Okay, not too long ago, they used to have M1 Mac Minis for under $500, but I think they were all bought up because the only Mac Minis now are M2. But $509 for an M2 Mac Mini, that's pretty great. Refurbished is good, Best Buy is good. It's not a bad option. The bot spam situation has gotten significantly worse since the Elon takeover, at least from what I've seen. Yeah, I was frustrated with that too, because Elon said, like, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to fix all these things. And he basically didn't fix anything. All he really said was that he was going to prioritize free speech, but there's still accounts that were taken off, and they still ban people, and they're still in favor of shadow banning. And he still blocks people after saying they're going to remove the block. But it's just a lot of hypocrisy. Elon kind of gets to decide what free speech is, which he himself admitted later on. Okay, you can't have totally free speech. And as he's now discovering, as he's trying to make the company more profitable, if you just let anybody have a voice or write something hateful or offensive, then the advertisers aren't going to want to put their ads next to that account. So that account is going to have to be penalized for what they have to say, and then they'll complain that they don't have free speech because the platform they're posting on. It's the same problem YouTube has. People say YouTube is censoring people. It's like, well, they're trying to protect their advertisers, because without the advertisers, there's no content creators. Without the content creators, there's no audience. Without the audience, there's no advertisers. It's you got to please all three of those people very carefully. And if you're just a free speech absolutist, it doesn't work. So someone has to decide what is and isn't allowed, and whoever's deciding that is going to tick off somebody, because someone's going to argue with YouTube or Elon on what should and shouldn't be allowed. But it all kind of comes down to the advertisers a lot. Would not be surprised if Twitter starts requiring verifications to post anything. I really hope. It's already gotten bad. They're starting to limit how many DMs you can send. Verification, I understand wanting to verify people's identity so that they can vote in polls and stuff, but it should not be a paid thing. There's definitely ways to verify an identity without a credit card. I actually don't think he should sell it. I just think he should put Linda, the new CEO. I've seen her in interviews. She seems smart. I just think he should focus on SpaceX, basically. Because it feels like everything that Elon once done is always very poorly thought out, and he didn't think about any of the repercussions of, and he's just like, we're gonna do this now. Let's do it without thinking about it. That's good for a rocket scientist that needs to rapidly test, fail, try something until it breaks, and then try again. I think Elon is a really, really smart person for rocket science. I don't know if it necessarily is good for social media. He's good at running a business and turning it profitable, but at a certain point, social media, it's a tricky thing to get right. It's not necessarily about profitability. It's about relevance, and do people feel comfortable on there? And because it's a sustainable thing, it's like you got to keep people justifying the membership or justify the advertisers continuing to pay there. You can't just come up with the product and deliver it and just call it a day. Let's see. Just don't make bad or gross jokes online. Yeah, pretty much. Predictions on iOS 17 release date? Probably the Friday after the event, so the September 15th, I would guess. I've been Twittered terrified. That's good. Beautiful. X getting rid of censorship by removing blocking in Elon's eyes. If you have not, don't hit the like button. Everybody hit the dislike button right now. Who wins the fight? I would guess Zuckerberg, because he seems a lot more trained. Musk is bigger, but with kickboxing, I don't think that matters all that much. The thing with YouTube is the content removal happens to people that are not saying hateful things. They get targeted because they talk about hateful speech, hateful creators. The algorithm detects keywords. I've seen similar people complaining about their accounts getting suspended or taken down on Twitter, too. But, I don't know. There's still a lot of fairly conservative right-wing channels that all have YouTube presence and YouTube audiences. No, I'm pretty sure the Elon Zuck fight was canceled because Zuck wanted to do it in a certain way, and Elon didn't want to do it in a certain way, and then Elon called him a chicken, and now Zuck probably just thinks he's immature, so I don't think it's going to happen. Have you ever had really bad bugs, glitches, or hacks on any of your Apple devices? Nothing huge. I tend to talk about them in videos or post them whenever I notice them, but I guess I've been just lucky overall. It's funny, my mom actually, who has my old 13 Pro Max, she had a horrible problem with her phone yesterday, even though her phone is way newer than mine. She was like, the screen won't turn off, the buttons won't respond, and the gestures won't do anything. The screen is just frozen, but it's on, and it won't charge, and the buttons aren't helping, and I tried to walk her through it. I'm like, have you tried to force restart it? And she said, yes, I tried to restart it, still didn't work, and I was telling her the chain of buttons, press up, down, and then hold, and she tried that, and it still didn't work. She had some kind of horrible problem, and she's not on beta software. She's just on the public build. On a 13 Pro Max, which is not an old phone, and she was having some real bad problem with it last night that I couldn't figure out, that I've never had happen on any of my phones. But I guess maybe if I still had the 13 Pro Max, I would have had that problem. I don't know. I guess once when I was in Hawaii, my iPhone 11, or no, my SE really froze up for a minute. I don't know what was wrong with it. It like zoomed in for no reason, and then it didn't respond. Like the home button didn't respond, and the power button didn't respond. But I just did a force restart, and then it was fine. Consumer Compute had the same problem. That's interesting. Do you recommend the Apple TV now? Most TVs have smart functionality baked in. Yeah, I mean, if you're fine with the smart TV baked in, that's totally normal. I only have an Apple TV because I was gifted one basically by Mike from the podcast. He was picking up one and they were on sale and really cheap, so I gave him a barbecue and he was like, "Yeah, well, thank you back for the barbecue by getting you an Apple TV." And I was like, "Oh, wow, thanks, Mike." So I didn't like go out and choose to buy it, but before the Apple TV, I just used the Roku built in, and the Roku's fine. It's not the cleanest UI. tvOS is definitely better. Siri Remote is definitely better, but is it worth? I wouldn't spend an extra $150 on it, but if you can find them on sale, you can find them for like $100 or less. If you want a little bit of a cleaner UI, you want FaceTime on the TV, you want a nicer remote with aluminum build and a more simple. Those Roku remotes suck. They're so plasticky and rubbery, and they always got dedicated like Disney Plus, Netflix buttons, which I hate. I don't need those on there. The Siri remote is just so clean and so simple. I went to New York City last year. Or no. When was that? Yeah, it was last year. Last Valentine's Day, I was in New York City. It's on my... I checked out the Apple Store and everything. It's on my Tailosive Life channel. I vlogged it. The smart part of the hardware. I don't know. You can get some pretty affordable TVs these days. I know people that can get a TV with a Roku built into it for like $200 or less. So if you've only spent like $150 on the TV, do you really feel like you need to go out and spend another $150 on an Apple TV? And that Apple TV won't come with an HDMI cable? Like, come on. My TV remote from 2018 has several buttons for streaming services that no longer exist. See? Yeah, that happened to me too. Exactly. It's ridiculous. I think they get paid to do that. I think the TV company gets a paycheck if they put a dedicated button. Because there's no other reason to do that. Because obviously there's a bunch of people that don't have those services. So why would you put them on there? It's weird. Was to trade it in, update to the 14 Pro Max, have her take it to an Apple store, even if you don't have Apple Car. Sorry, that is happy to her phone. She just waited like an hour and it shut off and she got it to restart. Now it's fine. So sometimes you just got to wait it out. That's all it takes. I wonder if Samsung will have an under-display camera before Apple. They already do. Have you seen the Z Fold? Pretty sure the Z Fold has under-display cameras. Yeah, sorry. Apple's definitely going to be late to that one. I don't think even the iPhone 17 is going to have under-display cameras, actually. That's something they're not in a big rush to, especially now that Dynamic Island is a thing. It's like a feature to have that little cutout at the top. But, oh well. Going from a broken 10S to the 15 Pro Max. Can't wait. Wow. That's quite an upgrade. Congratulations. And it's broken. Let's see. It does. They suck. If I ever... Yeah, I think I answered that one. I tried HomeKit stuff, but I never felt very... I always would buy something that would work with HomeKit, and then it would stop working, and then it would need a firmware update, and then have to download some other app, and then they would want me to have a different password, and I just never got comfortable with much HomeKit stuff. I tried it, and it just... Every time I expanded it, I got more annoyed by it. So I was like, you know what? Maybe the home is something that doesn't need to be smart. Sometimes people make things smart unnecessarily. Like the one I critique is always the smart microwave. Why does my microwave need an app? Like, what am I going to do? Like, the only reason I would ever want to interact with a microwave is because I'm nearby it and I want it to heat up my food. What does my phone need to do to the I'm not going to put food in the microwave and then start the microwave from the other room. Because I'm going to have to get up again anyway to get to the microwave. Like, I don't get why a microwave needs to be smart. The one idea I came up with a while ago, and I don't think I've seen anybody do this, but I haven't looked very hard, so correct me if I'm wrong. I think it would be really cool if, you know how on our iPhones we have that little eye icon in the pictures. You know, you take a picture of a plant or a place, you'll get that little information button that you can click, and it says, here's what plant that is, or here's what food that is, or here's that location. If you could use that AI machine learning tech in the microwave so that you could just put any food you wanted in the microwave and just hit start, and it knew exactly how long to heat it. You didn't have to enter in the time code. That would be kind of cool. Still doesn't need an app though. It doesn't need, your microwave still doesn't need to connect to Wi-Fi or get an app and pair with your phone. That's just something that the microwave itself could do that would be kind of smart. You know, it could have a thermal camera in there. You put in a cold piece of pizza, it looks at it, it heats it up, and it figures out exactly how to heat the pizza just right so it doesn't burn your mouth, but it's not cold, and you can just eat it and enjoy it. And then we can stop fussing around with this whole put food in the microwave. How long should I put it in for? Should I put it in for 60 seconds or should I put it in for 30? If there was a way for the microwave to just know based on whatever the food was, all right, that'd be kind of cool. I'll concede there. Same thing with laundry machines. I don't know if they do that. But I've heard of smart washing machines. And I was like, what do they do? Like, they just, you throw clothes in them and it automatically knows how much water and soap to do? I feel like they do that now. Microwaves have buttons for chicken and special stuff, not a smart thing. No, but that's not a smart thing. That's just a predetermined time code. I know all microwaves have had that, like pizza, chicken, but they don't know how big the chicken is. They don't know the temperature of the chicken either. Do they know that the chicken is frozen, or the chicken just came out of the fridge, or the chicken has been sitting out for a while? You're like, you don't know how. Is it fried chicken, or is it grilled chicken? You know, if there was a camera with some kind of little computer in there that could analyze the food as you put it in there, like lasagna, how long are you supposed to microwave lasagna? No one really knows. You take it out, it's hot and cold somehow. If they figured out a way for the microwave to analyze all that, or even like it stops heating up the food, but it says wait 10 seconds for it to cool down, or wait a minute for the edges of the lasagna to cool down, but then when you take it out, it's all warm equally. I got converted by this channel to get an iPhone. Now I have a Mac, watch, iPad, AirPods. Can I send you an invoice? I keep asking people. I never told anybody to buy Apple hardware, for the record. All I really do here is talk about what I like and what I'm happy using. And then people show up saying, you convinced me to buy this. I'm like, how did I convince you? I've always told people on Android to stay on Android. If you're on Windows, stay on Windows. If you're on Mac, the whole transitioning ecosystems is the hardest part. So just stick with what you got. There's advantages and pros and cons to both. And yet there's still people showing up that are like, yeah, you convinced me to switch. I'm like, when did I tell you to switch? I never said that. As we love lamp. Nice. It saves going around turning on 4 lamps in a room. The home pods don't always work, though, even though the Philips Hue bridge works on its app. That's just too much work to me. You could spend all this time buying bulbs and connecting things to your router and then troubleshooting the HomePod when it's not working properly. Or you can just... Maybe it's different. I don't have 4 lamps in my room. It just sounds like you got a lamp problem. We just got like 1 light switch in every room. And when I walk in, I flip the light switch. And when I'm done, I flip it off. It's actually not even on in here. You just convinced me that Apple should get into the microwave industry. You could do a whole range of smart stuff, like a smart oven. You just tell it what you're baking. It could look at, you have the recipe queued up on your phone, and Siri can see the bake time. It tells you on that web page where you're looking at the recipe, analyze the temperature and the time in the oven, and you put your cake or whatever you're cooking into the oven, and based on your web browsing history, it knows how long to cook it and at what temperature. I just made solid points to get an iPhone, and I don't regret. What did I say? What were my solid points? I don't get it. Brendan's like, do not stay on Windows. Okay, that's true. Telling somebody to stick with Windows is like telling them to stay poor. Oh, come on. With all those gaming PCs out there that cost thousands of dollars. Moving ecosystems is not as hard as people make out. I use Windows for work and Android and Mac for personal. Can use both. But you just said earlier you had an iPhone. Then you erased the message and you thought I wouldn't notice. What if you could fast charge an iPhone inside the oven? Oh, that's a cool, like, what do you call it? Natural selection. If you think you can charge your iPhone by putting it into a microwave, you probably shouldn't own an iPhone. You should get some help. You should own a membership to a psych ward or something. I don't know. You can buy Android phone as long as I have an Apple logo. Did I say that? I don't think so. Hey, microwave, make my lasagna hot in the middle but not too hot on the outside. That would be kind of cool. I feel like there's some really smart tech we've come up with that hasn't been fully utilized in terms of kitchen appliances. Who am I kidding? It probably wouldn't work very well. The microwave said this is pizza, and you put in, like, I don't know, fried chicken or something. Air fryers are awesome. That's probably the newest, like, greatest innovation in terms of heating up food. It's like you get the food hot without that cheap microwave feel where everything's just burning. I love air fryers. We didn't have one for a long time, but we'd always use them at other people's houses, and I was like, I really want an air fryer. And then we got one, and I was like, this is amazing. Can Apple make an air fryer? They already got the Air thing. MacBook Air, iPad Air. Apple Air Fryer. Someone asked me that earlier. Like, they were like, Drew, do you think Apple should be like Samsung and get into the, appliance business, make a refrigerator, make a washer and a dryer? And I was like, heck yeah. Everything Apple makes just tends to be simple, intuitive, and clever. So I would like Apple to enter as many spaces as possible. I know they have this whole brand identity they want to protect. We just make a few great things. Why can't you make a lot of great things? Is that too hard? I'm not saying I would go out and buy it. The Apple washer and dryer would probably be like $6,000. But someone would buy it. Someone with a ton of money. iFry. There you go. Bye, Michael. Apple Air Fryer Pro Ultra. Yeah, it would be cool. Don't act like that wouldn't be cool. I know we're making memes here, but I am dead serious. I am completely serious in saying if Apple made home appliances, you guys would be interested. You'd be curious. You'd be like, oh, what's Apple's take? Would the Apple refrigerator be way more efficient than every other refrigerator? Would it use way less energy? Would it be like way more thought out and way more clever, and all the sounds would be perfect? The drawers would be dead silent as you open the drawer and you close it. It'd have a soft touch, and you could look inside. The outside of the fridge would have iPad OS on it, so I'd hate it. The fridge would run Mac OS or something. But no, like every little detail, like Apple, how they ship you the Apple Card, how they design the little hinge for AirPods, how they make everything soft touch and the folio covers, and Apple just pays a ton of attention to detail. So sure, make a toilet with a bidet. I'd be curious. I want to see. I'm not kidding, by the way. This is not a joke. I know Haru's laughing in the chat, but like genuinely, what would an Apple toilet and bidet look like? I bet it would be cool. It'd be smart. Then they could measure it in the health app. Your urine doesn't seem like it's the right color. They could track all this. You're going to the bathroom too much. Siri detected an unusual hike in Flushing after you stopped at Taco Bell. Like you could get all they love all this data on you anyway. Could analyze so much more information. It would be a fanless cooling system. A printer, that's a great idea. That's something that everyone thought would go away in the digital age and didn't. That's a piece of tech that like big tech companies don't want to make, but yet everybody needs to use. Smart toilet with bidet will be an instant buy for me. Hey, we all do it. I mean, everyone gets all giggly about it, but seriously, it would be useful. I saw Max Weinbach talking about that the other month. I'd buy Apple kitchen appliances, not sure about an Apple toilet. Well, that would be pretty expensive, I'm sure. You gotta get a plumber involved. I don't think you could install it yourself. But toilet with FaceTime. Now we're talking. You could have a fingerprint reader on your Touch ID. If the toilet doesn't read your fingerprint, then it doesn't flush. No one can sneak into your house and flush without you know. And then it identify everybody in the house. Here's how many flushes Dad did. Here's how many flushes Brian did. Here's how many flushes Mom did. You know? Apple toilet for men's and women's health with massage function. Oh, massage. I like that. See? All this stuff and they probably still won't make a car. Apple trying to get people upgrading their toilets every year. Well, or a membership. You gotta get Apple Drop, iDrop. We'll call it iDrop, but in order to get access to the cool RGB butt ID. There we go. It scans the every butt has a unique identifier. Yes, Daniel. Everyone, but you gotta get iDrop Plus. iDrop Plus unlocks the RGB lighting so that it lights up at night and you can see it, and it activates like the seat warmer, like it heats up so it doesn't feel really cold. Apple Music could play. That's true. Apple Music, classical music could start playing if it detects that you're struggling with the iDrop, you know, just by the noise. The Apple Watch has the decibel reader, you know, where it detects loud noises. It's in the toilet, and it's like, we detected some loud noise coming from your iDrop. Would you like some Apple Music Classical to lower your heart rate during this difficult experience? It helps, yeah. It helps you drop. I think that would be a good name for it. iDrop. Play my It's Gonna Be a While playlist. Doesn't accept goodies from Android users. Oh yeah. The lights turn green in the toilet if you're an Android user. You have to drop your iPhone in the toilet to calibrate it. Apple could do pregnancy tests. It's funny you say that. I just watched this old Julian Smith video where he's all these bad iPhone app ideas, and there was an iPhone app pregnancy test where you have to pee on the phone to see if you're pregnant. Do those apps still work? I wonder. Like, can you download an app on the App Store that says it'll tell you if you're pregnant? I bet Apple would take that down, right? Anyway, as much as I'm laughing, I bet we would all... This would make headlines. Everybody would be talking about this. Marquez would probably not only make an announcement video, but then he would do a review. Especially if it was matte black. Can you imagine a matte black Apple toilet that's called iDrop? That, I mean, does everything we just described. The toilet send a message about your status to who's next in line for the bathroom. You know how there's focus modes? Like, don't text Nick right now. Nick's notifications are silenced. You could be like, Nick is on the toilet right now. As we speak. Could you imagine if you couldn't go to the bathroom because of some security measure? I mean, that's not too out of the ordinary. Sometimes I'm running somewhere, I need to use the bathroom, and they lock it. And it's like, oh, you need the key. The employees have the key. I have iDrop on my body built in. It's wonderful. Oh my god. Have you seen that meme where the guy's like trying to get into the bathroom stall? He's shaking it. He's like, and it keeps going, insert cash or select payment type. And he's like, come on. You gotta like, it's gonna be going to the bathroom in the future. I hope we don't have to pay to unlock bathroom stalls in the future. Part of my brain is like, that'll probably never happen, because if you did it, people would just start, you know, crapping on the floor and stuff. Like if someone really wants to go, they're going to go. So it's probably in best interest of the business or the facility to have a restroom that other people can go into. But maybe they'll come up with a way to move more towards paying with your face, Apple Pay, powered by Face ID, and it'll just see your face and bill you for the toilet. Then you'll just have to wear a mask when you go to the bathroom. And there you go. Maybe if you wear a mask, it won't open. Take your mask off and then the stall open. The toilet vibrates if you fall asleep. Oh, there you go. Exactly. Apple toilet unboxing and first impressions. That would, 80 channels would, at least 80 YouTube channels would make a video on that. You know it. Stop. I'm not joking. I'm not doing this as a meme. I'm saying genuinely, if Apple did that, you know they would make there would be so much YouTube coverage. It would probably be the most talked about toilet of all time. And I think it'd be kind of fun. It'd be kind of interesting to see, like, what's the Apple design philosophy in other segments of the market, you know? It'd be a very crappy situation if we had to pay you to use a stall. That is very true, Jeremiah. I'm jealous of the Apple financial stuff you guys get in the U.S. Apple Card and Apple Cash don't exist. I know. I really wish they would bring it outside. Space gray eye drop. Buttocks ID. The toilet paper could be built in. No, we're going to use a bidet. The bidet is going to use recycled water. There's a water purification system. It's the most efficient toilet. They're going to have a graph. Here's other toilets' water consumption. Here's eye drop. It's a win for the environment. There was a McDonald's in Boston where you had to put a quarter in to use the bathroom, trying to stop the vagrant population from using it. There is a woeful lack of public toilets in American City. Really? Well, this is a wonderful topic. I'm glad we could all discuss this today. But anyway, I think it's almost, well, it's not time for dinner, but it's getting hot in here. And this conversation's going to get worse if I'm not careful. So I appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you, channel members. I will see you in the next members-only stream. And all I will leave you with is something that I'm surprised more of you haven't commented on. I changed something in the last couple videos. I don't think anyone brought it up, but something's missing. Stay tuned for more. Bye-bye.